guys, can't believe we've already done 12 challenges, 12 days. I hope you guys are finding encouragement in these and are enjoying doing them and kind of looking forward to what's going to be the new thing I can do. And maybe if you're forgetting, we're maybe about halfway through. So if you're forgetting to do the challenges, maybe take a sticky note or a piece of paper and write down the challenges that we have so that you can remember them and put them up on your wall, and so that you can do them throughout your day. So we're on day number 13. Write uplifting chalk messages on your sidewalk. So you may not have chalk. So if you don't, you could always put uplifting messages, write them on paper. If I didn't have chalk, I would probably write them on paper and go, and you know how you can walk around your neighborhood maybe, and maybe you can slip them in people's mailboxes. So they would actually have a note from you. That might be a fun thing if you don't have the chalk. But if you have chalk and it's not raining out, write some messages. So when people are walking their dog or taking a walk, they can see your uplifting messages on the sidewalk. That's day number 13. We'll see you guys back tomorrow for day number 14.
Hey there, kids. My name is Abigail and I am a teacher here at CCC. And today I'm going to be reading the story from Joshua 3 and 6 called The Warrior Leader. And as I'm doing so, you guys can pull out your ornament for today. It looks like this. So you guys can go ahead and pull that out as I'm reading the story. After Moses died, God gave his people a new leader. His name was Joshua, which means the Lord saves. Joshua was going to lead God's people into the special land God had promised to give them. By this time, God's people had been wandering around in that baking desert for 40 years. So you can imagine how sick they were of sand and anything yellow and tents and walking and being hot. And how happy they were to reach the edge of the desert and to see their beautiful new home right there in front of them. All cool and green and lovely. There was only one problem: Jericho. Jericho was a city, but it wasn't just any old city. It was a fortress, and it stopped anyone from getting into the land. The people looked at Jericho, at the big, giant, scary walls around it, at the tall, towering ramparts, at the heavy iron gates that bolted it shut at each other. What would they do? No one knew, but God knew, and God told Joshua what to do. But Joshua must have looked surprised, because it was a very odd battle plan indeed, as we'll soon find out. Then God made his people a promise: I will always be with you, and I will never, ever leave you. If you do what I say, your lives in the new land will be happy and everything will go well. So Joshua gathered his army together, and they had their swords and spears and shields. They were ready to fight. But the plan wasn't about fighting, and it was about trusting and doing what God said. Joshua's army went marching around the city, day after day after day. They're too scared to fight, the people said in Jericho. But they were wrong. God's people weren't scared. They were waiting for God to tell them what to do next. On the seventh day, God told the people to march around the city not once, but 7 times. Then God told everyone to make as much noise as they could. Has anyone ever told you to make as much noise as you possibly can? Well, imagine that noise. Add 39,999 other people making that noise too. And you get the idea, ear splitting. And as it turned out, stone splitting too, because the huge, strong walls of Jericho just crumbled to the ground, as if they were made out of sand. Jericho vanished in a great cloud of dust. So it was that God's people entered their new home, and they didn't have to fight to get in. They only had to walk. Joshua said, God has brought you safely here. Now will you do what he says? Everyone said, we promise. Only God can make your heart happy, Joshua said. So don't pray to pretend gods. No, they said, never. I'm afraid they didn't keep their promise. They didn't do what God said. And many years later, just as God warned them, things would go so badly for God's people, they would lose their home. Enemies would capture them and take them off as slaves, and God's people would scatter into many different lands. But God's plan was still working. One day he would give his people another leader and another home. But this home no one would ever take from them. All right, so will you kids pray with me as I end out this video? Dear God, I thank you for each and every one of these students that are watching this video. God, I pray that this video will encourage them in their walk, and I pray that this story will impact their lives greatly, and that they'll remember this Christmas season about what Jesus had done for them, not only coming into the world, but dying for all of their sins. And I pray this in your son's name. Amen. Bye, kids.